Hotep, my brothers and sisters, Hotep. This is Second and Raw the 4th coming to you this morning with a serious reasoning dealing with a leaflet that I put out several years back, actually 2011, and it was based upon a series of even DVD recordings that we did called The Redefinition of Rastafari. Now, in this recording, I'm going to read from that leaflet to show you the seriousness and the effectiveness that this leaflet had on what we can see as the growing, what we would call now, complete Al-Kabbalonian consciousness of the Rastafari movement. Now, when I read through it, hopefully you'll see what I mean, because what I'm saying is that you'll see that more Rastas are breaking away and reclaiming that idol life. They're breaking away from that Christianization that had went on, and they're getting more back forward to the African traditional paradigms. Okay, well, that's what the leaflet's intention was, and I think if we observe, we listen to IRI FM, we listen to all these people speaking right now, it's definitely towards that Afrocentric, complete Afrocentric paradigm. Now, what or who is a Rasta, and what does the name Rasta mean? Well, the first thing is, in Amharic, there is no Rasta per se, because the word, it's two words basically. It's Ras and Te, okay, because it's not really Ta, it's Te. So the Rasta would be the head to be. Te means to be. Then you have Fari or Feri, which means the head to be fair, Feri, where they get the word fair from, or Feri meaning revered, honored, respected. So it's the head to be honored, feared, reverenced, respected. That's what Rastafari mean. So what is a Rasta? There's really no Rasta. But if we want to get into what we'd call the etymology of the word, the root of this word that we in Jamaica have, taken as a title at this point. We probably were given the title by disrespectful people. So some Rasta boy there, we always said Rastafari, because we really didn't say Rasta. We said Rastafari, King of Kings, Imperial Majesty. Rastafari is what we knew. We didn't know of His Majesty as Rasta. So we never hailed him as Rasta. We hailed him as Rastafari, Rastafari, Gardamawi, Kedamawi, Haile Selassie, whatever we had heard on the news. There was no Rasta mentioned in the news, or by Marcus Garvey or anyone that knew of the king. So the title Rasta now must have came from the people who just called us Rasta. Right? But we have taken it, just like you study the so-called Bible, and it says that the Christians were first called Christians at Antioch. See, they weren't Christians. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't have been Christians because they were Hebrews, and therefore they would have had a name that would have been Hebrew, right? Which was the Nazarite Party, the Nazarene Party. Look that up, the Nazarene Party, which was the names that these so-called disciples of this so-called Jesus, who was really Yeshua, who was just one of the Yeshuas who were into radical militant moves against Rome and Greece, and those guys were trying to, occupy the homeland or their place called Palestine in Africa, okay? So you have to look up all these different Yeshuas, okay? A lot of different Yeshuas. Just one Yeshua that the Pope and, the Constantine and the Nicene Council decided to create just this one Yeshua, which would be the Savior, the Messiah of the world. Okay? So, we're reading from this leaflet, and so we said we were going to the etymology of it. The etymology of Rasta is Rusta. Not like the rooster that crow. Well, it would count to see why they call that creature the rooster, because even though they say it's because he goes up in the roost and all that, no. If you look at rooster, which is the place of resurrection from Amenta, that's the place that you actually go to resurrect. Now, if this ritual was spiritual, then we could look at the resurrection of Rasta. Okay, the people who become Rasta, Rooster, as coming to this place of resurrection mentally, of waking from the dead. Okay, when our people, the Negros or the Negroes, are still mentally, spiritually dead to who they are. And that's why I said the redefinition series, redefinition of Rastafari, I know it enlightened a lot of Rastas to step up the degrees. Now, Rusta, again, R-U-S-T-A, can be looked up. You will find that it's a place in the Egyptian, in the Kemetian information. We want to make sure also to say that the word Egypt, that most of us has been taught to mean the whole land of Kemet, is not the whole land of Kemet. Egypt is from the Medunetta Het Ka Ptah. Het Ka Ptah meant the house of the spirit of Ptah, the god Ptah, which was our first god in Kemet. So Kemet is the place. Egypt was just one spot in Kemet. It was called Memphis, and it was Het Ka Ptah where the spirit of Ptah dwelled. You see that? And so we must learn all this. That's what the redefinition of Rastafari is. And why do we teach so much about Kemet? Because Kemet was where all of the civilizations of the Nile Valley was culminated, okay, accumulated, amalgamated. All of their sciences, their knowledges, it came together into this university in Kemet, okay? They made Kemet actually their university, that whole place, okay? And all of these cultures poured forth their wisdom and knowledge into that system that we see developed out of Egypt. Then, so that you understand, Kemet, Tameri, okay? Tameri, okay? Now, I'm going to read from the leaflet, because I think we haven't read the leaflet, we only dealt with the title. The Ra story versus the Hid story. And so, by Negus Ayadidiya Teferi, a second in Ra the fourth. Now, there's a quote that begins the leaflet. It says, "Some wearing dread just as a disguise, causing so many people to criticize, but they're only devils in disguise." Let me read it again. "Some wearing dread just as a disguise, causing so many people to criticize, but they're only devils in disguise." This is a quote from a song by Fred Locks, one of our culture artists from way back, still alive and well. Yell up to Fred Locks. Now I'm going to read from the leaflet. It says, "I'm doing all I can to show you that someone knows your story and has made it his story. This same image of Serapis was transfigured by Michelangelo, using his own relatives to create the new age Serapis, the white Caucasian Jesus Christ image of today. Even though there are so many different depictions of white Jesus, the idea was to have a universal or global European white Godhead over everybody else." Now, after this image of Serapis, you must look this up, S-E-R-A-P-I-S, I call him Serapis, that image that was created on the behest of General Sota, or Ptolemy Sota I. Now, Ptolemy Sota I was the general who took over Kemet after Alexander the Greek passed away. So after Alexander the Greek, you have a person called Ptolemy Sota I, who decides that he wanted to create his own God image idol, which wasn't backed by any cosmic forces. What do I mean by that? All the gods of Egypt, okay, of Kemet, right, of the Africans overall, our system, every god that we named was an elemental force. They weren't empty with just no idea. You made a statue, an image, just a metal statue, and you couldn't link that to, let's say, the power of fire, the power of water. What was the image created for? What does it signify? This image Sota only signified, Serapis only signified vaingloriousness. You know, someone you're looking to be worshipped. You see, what happened in Africa was there were humans that we made into what would be called demigods, or human beings that we moved into the God status because of the good works that they did. But we did that. The people did that. They didn't request that. See? Anyway, we told General Sota, Ptolemy Sota the First, that we couldn't make any images of him because he was a Caucasian, and we couldn't put him up on our African walls in Africa, in Egypt, in Kemet, whatever you name it. He got very angry. Now, before him, Alexander the Greek had made the same request. We denied him. He was upset, but he didn't do what Sota did. He took about 1,000 books and opened the Alexandrian library, and from there he began offering other Greeks and foreigners to come in and learn the knowledge that was being taught by the great scientists, alchemists, architects of Black Africa. And so he let these people come in to learn. Now, Sota didn't do that. Sota got so upset that he began massacring each temple of Kemet that refused him. Okay, he finally reached a group that was called the Malachite Coptics in Memphis. And this is where the beginning of the first European God image to be forced upon black people to be worshipped began. Now, when General Sota reached the Malachite Coptics, there were punks, and they decided to create this false image called Serapis for General Sota. The way they created the image was to take the already existing gods or elemental forces that we anthropomorphized, meaning gave these elemental forces human being characteristics. They took Osiris or Osar and Apis, the bull god, the young bull, right, of the mother, who they combined these two elements together and created Osiris. And Osiris was the first. That was the original name. Then they shortened it to Serapis. See? Osiris became Serapis. So when you look up the info, you'll find out that it was the two gods that they combined to give people this one image now. Because see, Serapis, the image, the metal statue that they created, didn't have any spiritual concept to it. So they took from what was already present and they gave him that the characteristics of the two gods of Egypt, called Osiris and Apis at that time. Now that they have Serapis, they want to have all of the blacks bow down to it in Northeast Africa, which is known as Kemet, Temeri. And if they don't bow, they die. They're crucified, they're this, they're that. They're split into their whatever, they're being killed for not bowing to that image. And so it comes over into the argument of Serapis being real, was there a Jesus? All that comes down into the time of, and this is going on in like I would say about 326, around there, or 327, a little further up. Yeah, because it was in 325 AD that Constantine, fed up of all of these arguments of whether or not there is a Messiah, there is a Jesus, whether Christ, Christos, Serapis Christos, because that was Serapis's name now, Serapis Christos. Because you can go back before there was the time that they said there was a Jesus Christ, and you will find there are letters written to the Emperor Hadrian stating that there are people who worship a false god named Serapis who are calling themselves bishops of Christ. That's before there's a Jesus Christ. So Serapis was their Christ. And so that comes down now with Constantine calling the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD and demanding that all these arguments be put to one idea. So he locks in all these argumentative people and groups of Christianity. If I was to start naming them, I wouldn't end right now. There were so many groups. I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to do it. You look that up. Just put in different sects of Christianity in history, and you'll find a whole bag of them. And so they were arguing about whether Jesus was real or just the sun in the sky and all this other stuff. So when they got into the Council of Nicaea, they were locked in by the emperor till they made what they were going to say to the people as one doctrine. And so let me read from the leaflet. I think I've given you enough there. Let me read from the leaflet. And so they began using all the different Kemetic sacred texts and different ancient myths and literature scrolls to create for the Greeks what is called European Judeo-Christianity or Christianism today. It was the Melkite Coptics that wrote the first Greek so-called sacred or sacrilegious text, then called the Septuagint, today called the Bible. They, the Melkite Coptics, were also responsible for the Hebraic Torah, or the first 5 books of the Bible, and the other books of the Old Testament, as well as later on, we'll see these guys were responsible for the Quran. The New Testament was written by someone else later. And this is why all 3 of these religions have the same prophets. They were written by the same people. Jesus, English, is Isa in Arabic, Yeshua in Hebrew, David, Dawid, Abraham, Abrahim, Musa, Moshe, and Moses, etc. And they place the image of Serapis as well as the false teachings of their forever coming, saving, white Zionistic, Greco-Roman hybrid Messiah behind these 3 religions, and have the work. You want me to say it again? Think it's a mistake? They place the false image, Serapis, as well as the false teachings of their forever coming, saving, white Zionistic, Greco-Roman hybrid Messiah behind these 3 religions, and have the world living in illusions manufactured by the Greco-Roman papacy, the Vatican. I am repeating this info not just for Rastafari ones, but for any who pick up this lightlet. A true Rastafari one is a complete ancient African encyclopedia. The emperor at the time, Constantine, saw thousands of his soldiers converting to the Greco-African Coptic Christian views. So he converted the whole country to this religion to stop the defecting of his soldiers. This is the same thing that Abraham Lincoln did to so-called save the Union when he claimed he abolished slavery, which he only did in the areas that there was no slavery anyway. At the Council of Nicaea, this is where Constantine did this. He told all those that had different opinions about Jesus or Serapis, whether he was the son or the son, the S-U-N or the S-O-N, real or spiritual concept, black or white, son of God or man, was he God, was he born from a virgin, or was Mary mother of God? He said for all them to come to the Council of Nicaea and stay locked in until they figured out what they could all agree on to sell the people. I don't know. I think this will show backwards. I hope it's able to be seen though. Now it says, This scheme that they were pulling was attacked by a brilliant African from Libya called Arius, who asked the council if they planned to create another Serapis and force it on the people. He was eventually thrown out of the council and basically betrayed by even people who came there to have put forward his argument with him again. They were afraid of Constantine, because Constantine finally came out and said, since y'all can't make up your mind, this is what it's going to be. Jesus was the Son of God, Mary was a virgin, and Constantine and them laid that down. Okay? And when Arius didn't agree with it, they kicked him out. They kicked him out of the council. This is history. Look it up. Anyway, he said, it says, he was thrown out of the council because he would not shut up and knew that they were about to dupe the people with another false white image in God. They combined a hero of the people, which is Yeshua ben Pendera at that time, Apollonius' teachings, look that up, Apollonius, so the Serapis of the Greco-Egyptian combined, and the other sun god Savior and Messiahs, and created the complete Messiah. Okay, then made it a law that this one, blonde hair, blue-eyed one, was now the best or the last. Okay, and so none of all the brown Christ and Messiahs that came before were real or divine until the lily white Jesus came into the world. Now, the wisdom teachings and the parables of Jesus Serapis or Jes Serapis is the words of Apollonius and others. These are the facts we need to know as facts throughout the Black Power African Resurrection movement. A Rastafari is to be a true teacher, even a griot, okay, a verbal historian or a jelle, okay, jelle is the real word, DJ. E-L-L-E, it's a jelly. A Rastafari is to be a true teacher, even a jelly, a griot, verbal historian, reciter of our history, as we leave the word slaves in reference to our identity in the physical period of enslavement to use instead the enslaved, which means against our will. While the word slave says we were born in this way or gave up and accepted this lifestyle, or acquiesced or agreed to it, which is far from the truth, and all the insurrection, rebellions and burning down of plantations and revolts from the Palmares, Quilombo, Nanina Maroons, Stony Gut, Paul Bogle prove that Nat Turner in the future, let us leave the name Africa from the Arabic El-Frikia to divide, which is what the invaders and the colonizers did to the motherland, and evolve our Sankofa to the original El-Kebulan, the middle, center, heart, original land of earth, the original name found to be used by the ancient ones of the mother father continent. Let's be brave and bold and show the next generation that will come that they too can create their own paradigm, African spiritual paradigm and movements and vibrations to help heal the minds and hearts of the African people and the world. Now let's look at the roots of Ras, Rasta, Rastafari, Ra, from the sun, the visible symbol force that is nature, God, the most high in the heights of the sky, the life giver, the source of all life in our quadrant in time and space. This Ra is the root of the word Ras, head, heaven. The word Raza, razor, is from Ras. It is from the shaving of the Ras, the head that we use. It's for the shaving of the Ras that we use, the Rasa, the razor. Okay? Now, having locks does not make you a Ras, a Rasta, a Rastar. The word in Amharic, Ethiopian, for locks is Gwendella, not Ras. Where did the term Rasta come from? Did we, the Rastafari, first choose the name Rasta, or was it given to us in mockery by this society that pokes fun at their own deliverers and saviors, just as they continue to do in this dispensation and era? Remember that the so-called mythical 12 disciples of Christ in the Bible never called themselves Christians. This name was thrusted upon them in mockery by the peoples at Antioch. As a matter of fact, during the time of Emperor Hadrian, letters are found before Jesus Christ calling members of those temples which worship Serapis bishops of Christ. This is before so-called Jesus' birth. Look it up. We never heard the title Rasta from Marcus Garvey or the news media until 1963. We heard of the King of Kings, Haile Selassie I, or Rastafari, never the abbreviated form Rasta. So again, who gave us the name Rasta? Who was the first person to say, I am a Rasta? Yes, we have the genesis, origin of the name Rastafari, but not the word Rasta. And so we say that it is the one complete name Rastafari that will unify the scattered mansions of the family of Rastafari. See, this bothers me because when you look at religions, Christianity, Hindu, Islam, Hebrew, you name it, all of them are separated up into different groups of ideologies and stuff like that. Now, Rastafari, that movement was to come and eliminate religiosity and bring us full circle to African spirituality. But what we find is that we are now broken off into sects and different groupings and ideologies like religions. Face that reality. Rastas, face that reality. Now, these people of Jamaica and others around the world, running so hard from their African selves, feared the entity first called troublemaker, rabble-rouser, riot instigator, rebel, revolutionary, today Pan-Africanist. Today we are called Rastafari. We came to trouble the waters and rock the boat. These long-haired, herb-smoking African king and queen, reverencing proud black people that stood out so bold and brash as a symbol of African power that says down with the white supremacy system of the world. These mixed up, confused African, English-speaking, Greco-Judeo-Christian, Caucasian, God-worshipping black people who now worship the very image of the beast Serapis, the rapist, that raped, ravaged, desecrated, and degraded their mothers to the level of cattle, castrated, emasculated, and feminized their fathers and brothers, are in a state of reality denial and plain and simple self-hatred. Took a while for us to get to this point where we actually hate ourselves and love worshiping the enemy. It says, they refuse to come out of the dream. They refuse, or the nightmare. They refuse to awake because this means it will be responsibility time. Responsibility for changing the state of ignorance and poverty that our people are in. Yes, these that are called the Rasta are the incarnators, reincarnation of the spirit of all liberators that continue through the continuum to manifest on this plane of existence, to do battle against a system that has put the earth into triple deep sleep for hundreds of years. The Rasta is one of the final bastions of hope against the tide of iniquity and moral decay that has swept away our culture and spirituality as an African peoples. In this society that applauds the decadence and give awards and fame and glory to magicians of the TV screens that have the ability to manipulate the mindset of the populace through theatrics and collective suggestions of style, choice, and trends. Being worshipped and honored in the Hall of Fame for creating sick episodes of mental degeneracy and visual filth. Psychotically worshiping and praising these actors and actresses and players in the roles of evil, immorality, and chaos. Turning the holy sacredness of the African female body into a desecrated harlotry video show. Making the imagery of a slut, the stereotype, the only one that is sexy and appealing to the male. He has no respect for any black woman because all of them are dressed like whores on the prostitute strip, but dancing to the #1 song like Afriki Gals Me Like. Being easy one-night stands, wearing clothing only women that walk the night prowl wear, advertising their goods to the highest bidder. The women who are treated like dogs and called so, bitches, Some of these same women that should be outraged at being degraded are mentally, spiritually, and emotionally damaged and practicing this acquiescence to the molestation of our most precious gift, our African femininity. Just as a child that can find no help and feels trapped forever in that nightmare, so he or she gives in hopes that the molester will stop the painful part of the treatment and actually love